So welcome back to Drafting with Mark, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at creating this part in AutoCAD. Now the drafting part of this, or the drawing part, meaning the 2D part of this, is nothing. The isometric stuff is going to be where it's going to get a little bit interesting in. So as you're going to see that the drafting portion is going to be relatively quick, but when we get to doing the isometric stuff, that's what's going to take us the longest. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our normal stuff that we usually do. Let's go ahead and turn the grid off. Then we're going to turn our ortho on. And then let's go ahead and check our running O-snaps. So these are going to be the ones that I'm typically going to use. Alright, so now let's start drawing, right? I'm going to first start off with a circle, center, diameter. And I'll go ahead and place that at 0, 0. So I'm just going to type in 0, 0 and hit enter. And the diameter of that circle will be 15. Alright, let's zoom the extents. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit more. Next, I'll go ahead and create a circle, center radius. I'm going to place this one also at 0, 0. So 0, 0. And this one has a radius of 15. Alright, so now that I have this created, I'm just going to copy these two over a distance of 120. So I'll go to copy. Let's go ahead and select both of these objects. Enter. Now a base point doesn't matter since we're using a distance. So I'm just going to select here. I'm going to aim this direction. And then I'm going to tell it how far I need this to go over. So I need it to go over 120. Then go ahead and hit escape. Next, I'm just going to copy these circles here. But I'm going to use an array function. But not the one that's in the array command. I'm going to use the one that's in the copy command. So I'm going to choose copy. I'll go ahead and select my object. Go ahead and hit enter. Once I pick my base point, this is when I'll get that option to select array here on my command line. I'll select that. I need to tell it how many I have. In this case, I'm going to create 3. And then I need to tell it the distance between each of them. So long as I'm aiming this direction, I'll type in 40. And hit enter, and then go ahead and hit escape. Alright, let's go ahead and put a couple of more things onto here. So I'm just going to draw a line, and I'm just typing in L, enter. I'll go in from this quadrant to this quadrant, go ahead and hit escape, and then do the exact same thing again at the top. So line from that quadrant, and then go ahead and click on this quadrant. Alright, so the bottom part of this is done, right? Next, I need to go ahead and tell it to create this next circle. This circle is located somewhere in this area. Now, I do know the distance of it. It's going to be a -5 from here. And then I need to go up a distance of 52.5. So I'm just going to choose circle, center radius. Now it's going to ask me what do I want to put that. Since I do know where my 0, 0 is, I can type in -5. Comma 52.5. Go ahead and hit enter. And then it's going to ask me for the radius. In this case, it's going to be 20. And it looks like it did not take my -5. It looked like I put in a +5. So let me go ahead and do that one more time. I'm just going to delete this. I'll go back to circle, center radius. And I got to make sure I hit the negative button. So -5, comma 52.5. So 52.5. Go ahead and hit enter. And then this one has that radius of 20. So you can just type in 20, or since it was the last command I did. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put the circle on the inside of that one. So I have a circle, center radius. I'm just going to touch that circle. Then I'll click on the center here. I always like to preview my circles. And then I'll type in 12.5. Alright, so now that I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and copy these two circles to the next location. So I'll go to copy. I'm going to select these 2 points. Go ahead and hit enter. Select a base point. I'm just going to select it out here. And since it's a relative from whatever point I need to go 65 units to the right. It looks like I typed in 85. So 65 comma, and then I need to tell it how tall to go, so or how high, and that's going to be 37.5. Enter. Then I'll hit escape. Alright, so now we have both of those drawn. Let's go ahead and create our circle that is located along here. Now, if you're going to use the fillet command to create these arcs, remember that it's only going to do a concave circle. So if I'm going to select that, it's going to create a concave circle. I can't use the fillet command to create this one on the top because it's going to be a convex circle, right? So when I use the fillet, make sure that you're going to be selecting for a concave circle. So I'll go to fillet, radius. I'm going to type in 55 is my radius. And then I'm going to select this circle here and then that one. So now you see that that's what I'm talking about. It's going to create a concave circle. I'll go ahead and do the next one, and we can use that same method to do that. I want to show you another different option that if you don't feel like going ahead and keep typing in and keep flipping between them, you can also use the offset command. So I can go to offset, select the distance is what I'm going to need, and I'm just going to select the distance will be from this quadrant. So click that quadrant to that quadrant, and that sets my distance. Now I can select this arc and select it here. Go ahead and hit escape. Do the exact same thing again. I can go to offset. I need to select my distance, so I'm going to go from that quadrant to this quadrant here at the top. And then I'm just going to offset that line. And then one more time like I did at the beginning of this one. So offset that quadrant to that quadrant, and then select that circle, and then go there. Alright, so the final steps that I'm going to need to almost complete this is just drawing a couple of vertical lines here. So line from this quadrant down to where it perpendiculars to here. Go ahead and hit escape and do the exact same thing again, except choose this inside quadrant, going right down to where it perpendiculars here. Alright, so now I'm ready to start trimming out most of this. So let's go to the trim command and then start getting rid of all the stuff we don't want, right? And now I notice something is happening here. That just tells me that something is not quite touching the way I want it to. So I'm going to come back to that here in a second to see exactly what's going on. And I'm seeing that here as well. And I'm going to come back, like I said, and take a look at that. So let's go ahead and finish trimming off all of the rest of this stuff. Okay. Now, sometimes you will have that kind of thing that happens where you can't quite get something to trim, or something may not be correct with it, right? So here's another option that you can use. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of this on the inside. So this is kind of one of those little tricks here. And let's see. And these, I think, are the problems that I was having where I have some trims. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to go ahead and create a circle, tangent, tangent, radius. I'm going to select this one here, and then that one, and then I'll type in the radius of that one, which is going to be 95 if I'm not mistaken. And then let's go ahead and trim this portion off around here. And go ahead and finish trimming on the inside. Okay, so I have this kind of shape created. Now, in order to get the one on the inside there, I could select all of these. I can apply a join to it. And remember that all I have to do is just a little bit of math here. So the 55 and the 12.5, the 62.5. And what I'm doing is looking at these two radiuses. So the radius that's going from here to here is 62.5, and the one that's going from here is 55. So if we do some simple math, that should give me 7.5. Let's go ahead and delete this. And so I can use the offset command and type in the distance of 7.5, which is what you see here at the bottom. I can offset that to the inside. And now we're back at where we were. Okay. Go ahead and fill it. Radius. It looks like I chose trim. Fillet. Radius. 20. And then I have more than one. So choose multiple. and go ahead and place them here and here. Likewise on the other side. All right, let's escape out of that and then do our final trim. And we're just going to try to cut between these parts. All right, so the 2D part of this is, nothing more. I'm going to go ahead and create the top view just so I can show you the thickness of it. And I'm just going to simply use a construction line that's going to be vertical. And what we're going to do is we're going to select this quadrant here, that endpoint, and then this midpoint. Let's draw a line that's going straight across. So I'm just going to start here, go straight across here. Choose the offset command. Type in 30 as my distance. And go right across to here. Alright, so let's go ahead and use our favorite command of EXTrim to speed this up. So EXTrim, enter. I want to select this line here first, and then I'll click above it. I'm just going to hit enter on my keyboard to take me back to the EXTrim command. Select this one and click below it. Enter. Then I'm going to select this one to the left. Then one more by selecting enter. And then click that one and go to the right. I can move this up just a tad bit. Now, if this is done correctly, the overall length of this should be 160, right? If I take a quick measure command, and you can see that it does light it up and tells me that it is 160. So we've done everything correctly. Next, we're going to use this in order to create the isometric. So this is where we're going to take a little bit more time at it, and hopefully it don't take us too long, but we'll go nice and slow and make sure we can grasp it. I'm going to first switch my ISO draft on, and then I want to take a look and stay in the ISO left plane. I'll start off by creating an ISO circle, so I'm going to type in EL, enter. Then I'll type in I, enter. And just kind of like we did in the beginning here, I'll create a radius circle here, and it's 15. Let's kind of work here a little bit more. Let's go to EL again. So EL, enter, I, enter. And then I want to go to the center of here. So click that. Select the word diameter. And then type in the diameter that you're going to need, which is going to be 15. Copy. Select these objects, hit enter, pick a base point, and I'm just going to aim this direction, and I'm going to have some extra circles in here, but this is going to be fine. So I'm going to type in 40, enter, and then I'm going to type in 80, enter, and then finally I'll type in 120. Go ahead and hit escape. So you see we don't have kind of an array command or some of that other stuff that we usually would have. I'm going to go ahead and delete these two lines here, or sorry, two circles. All right, another thing that you're going to see or notice that we don't have is that these quadrants are not located where they need to be, as far as in an isometric. They're actually going to be the tangent points, so we're not going to worry about that yet. But in order to create that arc going across it, I'm going to use a construction line. That's vertical. And I'll go ahead and place it at this center and at this center. Okay, when we escape out of that command, all right, so this should allow us to be able to draw a line from this intersection to that intersection. Okay, likewise here, I'll draw a line from this intersection going straight across to that intersection. Okay, let's go ahead and escape out of that, delete my two vertical lines here, and then trim in between them. So I'll go ahead and use the type in commands here. So trim, go ahead and trim that portion off. All right, so now we're going to start working on the top part of this. I'm going to start with the line command. I'll click at this center. I'll go up a height of 52.5. And then I'll go to the left here, a distance of 5. So now I basically located where I want to put the center of my circle at, which is going to be at that point. So I'll go ahead and choose circle center radius. Click on this endpoint. And I'm sorry, I used the circle center radius. Go ahead and escape. I meant to type in EL, enter. ISO circle, so I enter. Go ahead and click on the center here, or that endpoint. And then go ahead and type in the radius, which will be 20. Go back to the ellipse command by typing in EL, enter. Then I enter. Click on that endpoint, and then give it a radius of 12.5. Alright, next I can go ahead and delete those two, since now that gave me what I needed. I'll go ahead and create my next circle, but I need to copy these, right? But first I'm going to create myself a little skeleton. So I'll go to the line command. I'm going to click at this center. I'm going to go this direction, 65. And then we're going to go up a height of 37.5. Go ahead and escape out of this. I'm going to select these two circles here. Copy them from this endpoint, and then place them on this endpoint. Go ahead and delete that. Now here's the hardest part of this whole thing, is kind of defining how we're going to create these arcs in here. In order to do that, we're going to refer back to this drawing here, right? So what I'm going to do here is first get out of the isometric drafting. I'm going to create a circle from the center of here to the center of this arc. So let's go ahead and create a circle center radius. And I'll go from this center. I'm going to shift and right click and choose center. And go find the center of this arc. Now all of these are going to be the exact same. I'm going to check the measurement of this. So I'm just going to select it. Or let's go ahead and use the measure command. It should be able to give us that. So let's go to radius. And when I select here, it should give me that radius. So you see the radius of that is 75. I'm going to go ahead and create another circle just like that. So circle, center diameter. Sorry, center radius. I'm going to go from that center. And then I'm going to go to the center by holding down the shift and right click and choose center of this arc. And let's see if that's the same thing. So let's go back to the measure and check the radius. And select this one. And it tells me that that one is 75. So that tells me really a lot of information of what I need to define that center, right? So I need to create two circles from here that have a radius of 75. So switch back over to your isometric drafting. I'll zoom into here, type in EL, enter, then I enter. Go find the center, click here, and then give it a radius of 75. Do the exact same thing again, right? So EL, enter, I enter. Go find the center here. And this is where you got to be careful, because sometimes it might not be exactly on that center, but I want to make sure. And then this has a radius of 75. Okay, so where these two lines intersect at, you're going to see that that's the cross of where I need to go ahead and place my circle that'll create that one. All right, before I do that, because I have like 3 lines that are overlapping each other, so I'm just going to use the break command, which will come in handy for us a little bit later. So I'm going to go to break, select this icon here. I'm going to select this line somewhere along this direction, and then I'm just going to break it back to here. All right, so that just basically gets rid of any kind of confusion that is happening there. Let's go ahead and create an EL, enter, I enter. We're going to go right at that intersection here. And then we remember that the first radius here is going to be 55. Go back again to it. So EL, enter, I enter. This intersection. And sometimes the intersection might not want to show up. I'm just going to shift and right click and force it to show up. Select intersection, click here. And then I'll go ahead and type in 62.5. So back to EL, I enter once again at this intersection. Remember that if intersection is not showing up, you can shift and right click and choose intersection. Go ahead and type it in as 87.5. And then we'll do one more, right? So EL, enter, I enter. And another way that you can get to the intersection of that, I can type in INT, and that's just the first three, spellings of intersection. Once I hit enter, I'll go ahead and click here, and then I'll go ahead and place that one at 95. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of some of this and start cleaning it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and delete here, and then here. Okay. Now, normally you might be able to trim this, but since these are ellipses and things of that nature, they may not trim correctly. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a safety into this just in case. So I'm going to draw a line from the center of this circle here. Let's go ahead and shift and right click and choose center. And then I'm going to go to the center of this circle. So I'll click on that one. Go ahead and escape out of that. Go back to the line command. Go from that endpoint to the center of this circle. Okay. Last step here is I'm going to go ahead and extend. So underneath the trim command, we're going to choose extend. I'm going to use a boundary edge, so I'll select boundary edge. I'm going to select here, go ahead and hit enter. And then that's going to, when I click on these lines, it's going to send them to that. All right, there's no doubt that what's going to happen now when I start trimming this, right? All right, so let's go to the trim command. I'll type it in this time, type in TR, enter. And then I'm going to start working on this around, right? So I'm just going to trim off these portions here. Likewise around here. All right, let's go ahead and trim off these parts on the inside here. And just kind of making this look exactly like my drawing, right? All right, let's go ahead and escape out of that. Oh, forgot one more trim here. Let's go back to the trim command and then get rid of these portions at the bottom. All right. Next, I can go ahead and kind of clean out the rest of this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete this stuff around here. We can get rid of these two lines here. Okay, so let's do a couple more things here. Is that we need to draw a line going down from, basically where this endpoint is, and likewise on this one. So we got to do that same thing we did before by creating a line going straight across. So I'm going to draw a line here from this center going straight across here. So now at those intersections is where I'm going to draw my vertical line here. So I'll draw a vertical line from that intersection going down to here. Go ahead and escape out of that. Go back to the line command and do it here on the inside. And escape out of that. Let's go ahead and delete that line there. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and use the fillet command. So fillet, radius. Set that radius equal to 0. Enter. Then choose multiple. And what that's going to allow me to do is select that line and go to here. Then this one and go back to here. Okay. Let's go ahead and do a little trimming. So TR, enter. Go ahead and go trim that part out there and between there. Okay. So this looks exactly almost like our 2D drawing, and I know I'm missing the fillets here, but I'll go ahead and put those on here in a second. Right? So we do have those two comparisons that are happening. Let's go ahead and delete those. We don't need those anymore. All right. So to go ahead and work our fillets here, I'll go ahead and use the lengthen command. Choose delta, -20. And I'll go ahead and select these lines here. So that one, this one, this one, and this one. Escape. Use the ellipse command. So EL, enter, ISO circle, enter. And then I need to locate the center of that. So I'm just going to touch that endpoint, and then I'll go ahead and touch this endpoint here. Then I'll come up to where those two intersect, do a left click there, and then place it on that endpoint. I'll do that again here on the other side. So EL, enter, I enter, touch that endpoint, go and touch the other endpoint, and then track to where those two intersect here. Do a left click there, and then you can click on that endpoint. Go to the trim command, so trim, that's just TR, enter, and I'll trim off the extra portions that are running around it. Okay, so from this point we're ready to start copying things, right? So we know the width of this is going to be 30. Let me go ahead and switch to an isometric right. Choose copy. And I'm going to select these shapes here. And I'm not going to copy everything because a lot of this stuff we're not going to see on the other side. And I'm just going to kind of worry about this shape here. I'm kind of imagining to myself I might see the rest of that arc. I know I won't see this stuff on the inside, but I'll go ahead and get rid of it here after I copy it. So after you're done copying that, select enter. Go ahead and click here. I'm going to go this direction, and I'll type in that width or thickness that we had this at, which was 30. All right, so I like to kind of start here at the bottom first, and then I'll work my way up here along the top. So I'll draw a line, so just L, enter, and this is where the quadrants do come into play. Because once you find the quadrants, that's the actual tangent point that's running across. So from that quadrant to that quadrant, go ahead and hit escape. I'm going to select this line here, and I'm going to copy it. Let's go ahead and choose copy. Select this endpoint here, and then I'm going to start finding the endpoints that are along here. So I'm going to copy it to that endpoint, to this one. Should have another one there. Let's go along here. We should be able to find another quadrant. And we should have another endpoint here, as well as one here. Okay. So I'm just going to only fix the bottom part of this, and then we're going to work our way up to fixing the top part, right? So I'll go back to the trim command. So TR, enter. I'm going to get rid of that portion there. Let's take a look at here. Kind of work around and get rid of that stuff. I know that I won't see all of this line, so I'm just going to get rid of it here and here. Likewise, I won't see any of this going up, so I can trim off that part here. All of this can go away. Now I'm just kind of looking at it. Yeah, you won't see any of this at all. Okay, and I'm going to leave it right at that point because I want to see where that vanishing edge is at. Alright, so I'm going to select this line here. Like we did before, it's going to choose copy. I'm going to grab this endpoint here. And now I'm looking for where it vanishes at, right? And it's going to be right at that quadrant. Let's place one at that quadrant. I'm going to find this endpoint here. I do have an endpoint here. Let's go ahead and escape out of this and then trim this part off. So TR, enter. And so we see that now that part vanishes, right? But we do have something that's kind of showing through on this, right? So I want to see exactly what's going to show through. So I'm going to select these objects here on the inside. Copy. Pick a base point somewhere out here. And then I'm going to go into the inside a distance of 30. Alright, so what we're seeing is that's what's exactly is showing, right? So anything that is below this line in this arc will be showing. So all the rest of this we can get rid of. Let's go back to the trim command. So TR, enter. Now I'll go ahead and trim off all of the parts that I was explaining to you. Alright, so that's the part that we see on the inside, but now we have to check and see if we actually see all of that. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take this line and I'll choose copy again. Choose this endpoint. And then I'm going to see if I can go find the quadrant located here. So that's where that vanishes is at, right? I think I have an endpoint somewhere along here, and I think that I should have one somewhere back here. Yes. Okay. So where this vanishes at, everything below here has to get trimmed off. So let's choose the trim command again. Start trimming off that portion. Kind of getting rid of all of this stuff here. All right, let me escape out of that. And now it looks like we have completed that. That actually looks like a 3D representation of what we do have here. So if you made it through that far, good job. That was, kind of a tough one, but a lot of little details, especially when you're creating those slots. All right, now we're ready to start doing the drafting portion of this. So let's switch out of the isometric again. Let's go ahead and make this a B-size title block. So I'll start off with a rectangle. 0, 0, enter. 17, 11, enter. Let's go ahead and zoom into this. Choose offset, so O, enter. Type in 0.25, enter. And I think from now on to the end of the video, I'll use these shortcuts. That way you can kind of see a little bit faster on this. I know this video is getting long and I don't want to, keep up too much of your time. All right, so I have these two created. Go ahead and select both of them, hit the word create. Type in TB, and that's just shortcut for title block. I already have the center located at the right orientation and everything else should be fine. Go ahead and hit OK. Let's zoom out. Select this object here. And this is where we're going to have to start playing with whatever scale we need it to be. So let's take a look at what 30 does for us. And it looks like 30 would be a really good shot at this, and 30 will work for us. Let's see if we can get it a little bit better with the 20. And 20 does look a little bit too tight. 25 would be ideal, but I'm just going to stick with 30. Okay. Now that I have those, let's go ahead and move everything except for the title block. So I'm just going to move. Put a window around both of these. Go ahead and hit enter. And I like to kind of work out here. And I will turn my ortho off now, just so I can kind of freely move this around on the inside of here. All right, next I'll go ahead and move this to the inside here. All right, that looks perfect for me. Let's go ahead and zoom the extents. I just double click my middle mouse wheel, or you can select here. Either one will work. Trying to debate, should we just go ahead and put the layers on there, and why not? Let's go ahead and create layers. So go to layer, go to the new icon here. I'm just going to create one called Send for center. Let's create one that's called Dimensions for dimensions. And then I don't know if we have any hidden lines on this one. I don't think we do, but I'll create it just in case. All right, so I create my layers first, and then I'll go and set my line types to them. So underneath the one that says hidden, I'm going over there and selecting the word that says continuous. Click on load. I'll go find the hidden 0.5 and hit OK. Select it and then select OK. And then I'll go find the one that's the center one. Go ahead and click on the continuous, go to load. Choose the center 0.5 one and hit OK. Then I'll select it here, hit OK. Just to change the color so we can see it, let's go ahead and make our center lines. Let's make it magenta this time. So I'll make it the magenta color. And for our dimension lines, let's go ahead and make those, let's make them a red. So color number 1. All right, so I'm done creating my layers. Let's go ahead and start setting up our center marks. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in the command of center layer. And then I'll use the value of CEN, right? So I'll set my center layer to CEN. Then I'll also adjust my center EXE. Let's give it an extension of 3. All right. So now we're ready to start putting our center marks on here and center lines. So I'm going to switch to the Annotate tab, choose Center Marks. I'll select the big one here and the big one here. And then in between these, I'll select the little ones. I'm not worried about the line type weights just yet, because remember we haven't clarified where those are at. Select that arc here, and then that arc. Alright, I can put them up here on the top, but it's just going to kind of confuse the drawing or have it with too much stuff on it. So I like leaving it here. This is plain and simple and clean. Okay. So now I have to decide which method that I'm going to use, right? And I should have done this before I actually put the center marks on. And I don't think we use the standard method in a long time. So I'm going to use the standard method. I'm not going to use the annotation scale. So I'll go ahead and type in my, let's see, line type scale is first. So LTS, enter. Then I'm going to set this number equal to what I have my title block set to. In this case, it's going to be 30. You've seen that the drawing should update, and now these line types should be all nice and updated for you. Next thing I'm going to do is go to my dimension style, right? I can either select this icon here, or you can type in D enter. Both will work exactly the same. We're going to be using the standard method. So go to modify. And you know I always like to start from the right and work my way left. So kind of my left side of my brain thinking here. So my primary units, let's go ahead and suppress the trailing 0. Underneath the Fit tab, this is where you're going to make it match to whatever your title block is, which in this case is going to be 30. Underneath the text, we're going to adjust the text height, which will be 0.125. And then finally here, underneath my symbols and arrows, I'll set this equal to none. Go ahead and hit OK, and then close. All right. One thing before I do my last dimensioning here, or getting ready for my dimensions, is that I'm going to select my dim layer equal to dimension. All right, so now we're ready to start putting dimensions on this, right? So let's go ahead and do a linear dimension from this endpoint to this one. I'll choose the continue option and then select this one. All right, let's go ahead and go back to the linear. I'll select this endpoint first because I want my dimension to be on the outside, and then I'll select this one. So it'll throw that dimension on the outside. Let's move up just a hair more. Let's go back to linear. I'll choose this endpoint here. To that endpoint, place that dimension there. Let's go ahead and keep placing a lot of these linear dimensions. So I'll place a linear dimension from here to here. And actually, I don't need to have this dimension because I just looked at it. Both of these two dimensions should equal that one. Let's go ahead and delete that. And then go back to the linear command. I'm just going to give an overall. Let's go from that endpoint to that endpoint. Working here along the bottom. Let's choose linear. Let's choose that endpoint to this one. Linear again. This endpoint to here. Continue to this one. Throw a couple of more linear dimensions here along the top. So I'll put a linear dimension here. My kind of OCD will kick in every now and then. If I want that to be equal or at the same spot as this one, I'll just go ahead and click on that endpoint so it keeps those in line with each other. Let's choose a linear dimension from that endpoint to here. Okay. And then we can start putting some radial dimensions on this. So I'll choose the radius one. Place a dimension on this one. I'll just go ahead and hit the enter button just to save me some time here. Go ahead and place that one. Let's go ahead and place one around here. And I'm just hitting the enter button just to take me back to that last command, so that way I'm not kind of slowing down too much. And then we have one more final dimension here that actually is a diameter dimension, which is the one that's on the inside here. All right. The other cosmetic stuff that we can do is just by simply double clicking on each one of these, right? And once it comes up and allows me to edit, I can go to the front of this and type in 4x. Give it a space between it and click off of it, so I can kind of, work my way around this on this, or like you've seen me do it in the other videos, is where I select multiple ones and edit it. In this one, I'm just going to kind of do them each individual. Just to show you that you do have many different options, or however you want to create sometimes. So, and this is one of the things I always tell people when I usually teach this class live, is that it doesn't matter which way you do it, it's how you get it done. The final product is what's going to be given to your boss or whoever you're giving this to. Maybe you're trying to get a permit or something, and they're not going to specifically ask you how did you do any of that stuff. And another thing that you can kind of look at is that I can line a room up full of, hundreds of drafters and designers, and we each going to do these a little bit differently. So don't worry about so much the way I do it. Worry about the finished product, if that makes any sense to you. If you kind of, that's kind of one of the things that you do learn in this field, and I know you're used to seeing me do things a certain way, but in reality of it, you're going to learn and you're going to start developing your own skill, however you create that. And you may actually use some other commands that I don't even use. And, you might actually find a better way or a more efficient way than doing it than I do it. Not to say my way is correct, but I always encourage people to kind of explore and find new things, especially with some of the new commands that are in AutoCAD. I probably forgot more commands than I used. So, but anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you do like seeing this kind of content, please consider subscribing to this and hitting the like button, and share it with anybody you know that might need some kind of tutorials or some of that nature. Also, if there's something that you want to see me do, please reach out to me, leave it in the comments. I'm here and available, and try to help you understand or learn most of these drafting programs, or if you're trying to just, change your career, some of that nature, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to explain to you, basically how to get into this and hopefully start you on your journey to mastering this. All right. So thank you for watching this, and I really do appreciate it. And thank you for the ones that are subscribing and watching each of these videos.